Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video. So today I'm going to be talking about a tournament I went to for Kill Team recently, which was, as of time of recording, a day ago. But yeah, this time it's using Pathfinders again, but I haven't played in a while, so I'll go through that and then just talk you through what happened and how my games went. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as comment about what you thought about the video, what kill team I'm using, the state of the game, and stuff you'd like to see with the channel as well. Just let me know. Be happy to respond. But yeah, as I said, I'm going over my kill team battle report because I played a tournament down in Tabletop Republic in High Wycombe. So yeah, I haven't been able to play kill team for I think at least around 2 months, I'd say, including not even practice games or casual games, just because Christmas being, winter has been quite busy for me, especially had to do Underworld's reviews as well, so I ate up more time. But yeah, just haven't had much free time to do much hobby at all. So I thought this would have been a nice chance to play, because there have been tournaments happening in London at Bad Moon Cafe, effectively. But the problem with the London tournaments is they're effectively being announced a month in advance of each event, which for someone who needs to book off 2 or 3 months in advance is impractical. So I don't think I can make any of the announced London tournaments for the next 3 months or something. So hopefully they can get a schedule out for that. So yeah, but I found out this event via Glass Half Dead's Discord, and I went to check it out. So yeah, me and Charles went down. So I was using Pathfinders, and Charles was using his AdMech compendium. Partly, we'll do a podcast on it. So Charles will talk about more about his choices. But we basically picked kill teams we were comfortable with, because we haven't played for so long. And I was thinking of doing novitiates, but I couldn't get them painted in time. And then also the Rimblade Gene Stealer Cult kill team, but I've got them built, but they weren't legal for the event. And yeah, I thought about taking my Tyranids, but so there's a situation, right? Pathfinders are very strong, and I was tempted to ask the store how many players they had come in, because I was going off of Facebook, and Facebook doesn't give accurate numbers. So I'm just not comfortable with doing that, because I felt like if I ask how many players are going and then change who I'm playing based on that, I don't really think that's fair. I think that's kind of gaming the system, because you had a tournament where a player said he didn't want to use Pathfinders after teams were locked in and saw everyone else's team and then switched to another kill team. So it's technically being the bigger person, but you're also breaking the rules of the tournament, and obviously lists had to be submitted in advance because they were locked in. So yeah, stuck with Pathfinders, and yeah, that was pretty much it. We went into it not sure what to expect, but yeah. As for my kill team, it's just a Pathfinder kill team. What I was able to change when I last played Pathfinders was I added 5 new operatives. So my roster is all the specialists, but this time I added a normal Pathfinder. I added 2 weapon experts with rail rifles. So I had 4 experts of 2 ion and 2 rails. And then I added the other 2 drones, the Grav Wave Inhibitor and the Pulse Accelerator drones, just because why not, So my roster was 18 miniatures. So I had a lot of selection to give me freedom in case I run into stuff like high and vulnerable save kill teams like Harlequins, or where teams where the recon drone wouldn't be too useful, so then I can just swap the recon drone for more operatives. That's why I had the extra Fire Warrior. Generally, I always run 2 ion rifles over the rail rifles, but it's just nice having more choice. And yeah, I managed to paint those 5 miniatures in 2 days, which is very fast for me. But yeah, that was my kill team. And the tactics remain pretty much the same. This time, now that I'd played a tournament with the Pathfinders, I'm still very comfortable with marker-lighting stuff to delete stuff and do what I want. Because, marker lights are so strong. And if you aren't aware how marker lights work, so marker lights work as an action. As long as you can see any part of an enemy operative, you can give them a marker light token as an action. And if you have enhanced Marker Lights, you give 2 Marker Light tokens. And Marker Light tokens are, if you have 1 Marker Light token, you get a reroll. If you have 2, you ignore cover. If you have 3 or more, you get +1 ballistic skill. If you have 4 or more, you ignore obscuring. And if you have 5 or more, you ignore their conceal order and treat it as engage. So your goal is to either get it to 4 or 5. And obviously, for equipment wise, I was generally taking enhanced Marker Lights and enhanced targeting optics. So enhanced Marker Lights is place 2 Marker Light tokens instead of 1. And targeting optics is when you're shooting at an enemy operative who has 1 or more Marker Light tokens, you count as having +1. So if someone's on 4 Marker Light tokens, they count as having 5, which is very important. And then also flex between grenades, because the EMP grenade is quite useful. But yeah, just a lot of choice. The main tactics going into it was just literally identify the key pieces, each turning point that I need to eliminate from the enemy, Marker Light them to hell, kill them, and hopefully I can do like twice per turning point and then just move up and control the board. Because, you know, I've got a lot of movement shenanigans with dashing, but it's not a slow kill team, but it's not fast, if that makes sense. It can be fast in a single turn, but it's not as fast as it would like to be, which is fine. But the main thing is just point and click. So yeah, going into the games for round 1. So when we turned up to the tournament, we were shocked to before I get into the game, I'll get into the games, but the players. So the store was nice and spaced out, like really spaced. Like there was 8 players, which was great. Everyone was running a unique kill team. We had 4 boards, each on a 6x4 with lots of space. You know, there was hand washing stations. Everyone was wearing a mask. Like, you know, for precaution wise, that was really great. Obviously, I'm triple boosted, so was my friend Charles. Like, I tested myself before and after going to events. It was all negative. But it was like, wow, really good. And I believe they said that if they had more players, they could have done more. The greatest thing is, you know, the terrain, a lot of it wasn't painted, but it was all kill team terrain. So as long as there's terrain, I'm happy. Painted is just a bonus. And the TO, it was his first event, but he was using terrain layouts and copying basically what Warhammer World did, which is excellent. So we had the same boards for every table. They changed every game, and it showed what rules were in use for that board. So we didn't need to reference books. It was just really clear. The only downside was all the boards were symmetrical instead of asymmetrical. But I'm a player who prefers asymmetrical terrain instead of symmetrical terrain, just because it gives a little bit more benefit to being the defender in certain missions, which we'll get up to. But he'd also announced the missions we were playing, which were escalating hostilities for round 1, then it's domination for round 2, and master the terminals for round 3. So in round 1, I was paired against a guy called Reese using Gene Stealer coats. So at this point, I forgot that, Wormblade were banned. So I was like, oh, cool, he's using the new Wormblade. Well, you know, assembled my kill team, and then he was showing me his, and he's like, oh, I'm just using Compendium Gene Stealer coats because, you know, technically Wormblade were released Friday, the day before the tournament, so they weren't legal, and I was like, yes. So I selected, which is, spoilers, the same roster the same kill team for the entire event, was my Shas'Ui, my leader. Then I had all the specialists, everyone. I only had 1 weapons expert, which was the iron rifle. Then I took a gun drone, a marker drone, and a recon drone. So my main rationales behind that is I always take the recon drone because you get to get a free dash with someone in addition to your scouting options. And obviously the recon drone can analyze someone, so you can chain activate. So you can go, drone controller, linking to carry on to and chain to the recon drone, who can then chain onto someone else with analyze. So you can effectively activate 3 operatives in a single activation, which is super strong. Then I like the marker drone, just giving me some more reliable marker lights. And because I can fly, I like using the drones for actions, and the drone controller, when he takes control of a drone, I can do mission actions surprisingly well, and the drone can still count towards tac ops, and because it has fly, it gets really fast at zooming up the board. And then the gun drone is my sacrificial drone. I send it forward, usually to control points and like contest points early. If it survives past turning point 1, it's a bonus. Like, it's great if it does, but generally its goal is just to be an annoying disruption piece. And yeah, that's all. I always take the interference specialist. I love that guy basically because he ignores obscuring, so he can stand white or more, well, more than white away from heavy terrain and shoot at someone while ignoring their obscuring while they can't shoot back. And obviously while engaged, he can then give someone visible while engaged -1 action point. So really cool at pinning stuff down. And then yeah, he took a fire team of 5 Acolyte hybrids and 5 and then 7 Neophyte hybrids. So it was like a mix of grenades and what do you call them? Like heavy weapons. Some melee stuff, but it was mainly all on the Acolyte hybrids. So I'll just bring up, what do you call it? The board. So yeah, it was long ways. Oh, for the acrylic tokens, they're from Buy the Same Token, if you weren't aware. That's what I use because I think they're the best acrylic tokens for the game. But yeah, from that board, I was down in the bottom, he's down in the top, just because symmetrical deployments. So I bunched everything in the middle, effectively, because he had a gunner, and I expected the gunners to go on top of the vantage, and then because he had a grenade launcher, a Weber, and then he had a mining laser. So I was like, oh, they're going to jump up and like blast me. So I'll try and keep everything centralized. Flanked up my Blooded Pathfinder, and the way this mission works is each objective is worth 1 point, and then after turning point 2's initiative step, each player removes one of their objectives. So for me, it would either be 3 or 4, and then 2 or 5, and then you do that again in turning point 3. And when only 1 and 6 are left, they're worth 2 VPs instead of just 1. So it's a slow grind towards the middle. And yeah, we played very cautiously during turning point 1. He moved up. I basically pinged his heavy gunner with 2 Markalite tokens, and then I was like, okay, he's either going to move that guy away. If he doesn't, I'm going to kill him. So then what I did is he moves up someone else. Then I Markalited him again, going, okay, he's got 3 Markalite tokens now. If he doesn't move the heavy gunner out of the way, I'm going to kill him. And then he moved 2 normal Neophytes up to objective 2. And then I was like, cool, this is it. So I... what was it? Because I had reconned up my drone controller, he could see the heavy gunner. So Marklight him, chained to the recon drone. The recon drone just moved up, analyzed him, then picked my, what do you call it? My weapons expert with the experimental rail rifle. And then I just chained into him. So because I had 4 Markalites, he had the +1 Markalite thingy. So he counted as having 5 Markalites. And just like exploded the guy instantly. I rolled like 2 crits, doing like 4 mortal wounds, and I was like, "You have no cover. You have it's AP1, so you have a 5-up save." I was like, "Yeah," and then you just rolled 1 and 2, and the guy just exploded. Then he moved up his grenade launcher. Grenade launcher fired off at because he had the banner effect going off. Fired off at my Grenadier at the bottom of 4. And I was like, "Okay, this Grenadier is dead. No way. He's gonna move up and shoot." Shot him, only got 1 hit, and because I was behind cover, I retained 1, and it was like, even with his rerolls, I was just like, wow, I shouldn't have survived that. And then basically because he was concealed, I managed to Marklight him again with my leader, and I think the medic, and then I shot with my Blooded, because I gave my Blooded Pathfinder enhanced Markalites, so she can shoot while concealed because of silent. So pinged him up to 5, then just went hitting on 2s, ignoring cover, just obliterated the guy with like a crit, and then 3 successes, just blew him away. Because only 2 got through, but they all have 7 wounds, and that's 9 damage. Then I got really lucky at the end of the turning point. His leader was on objective 5, and I had claimed 3 and 4, and he had claimed 2. So I was like, you know what? My iron rifle's just going to run up. Ran up, did a YOLO shot, because at the start of the turning point, all I did was the bonded stratagem, which is effectively as long as you're within blue of another operative, you get a reroll. Fired at the leader, rolled 2 crits, 2 hits, and a 1. Rerolled the 1 into a crit, and then as a leader, only rolled a crit and took, what was it? 22 damage. Yeah, and I was like, wow. And unfortunately, he didn't realize that you measure from the center of an objective token. So he didn't realize, so he thought he was in range of 5 when he wasn't. So end of turning point 1, I'd managed to kill 3 when I only thought I'd kill 2. And, you know, I managed to control the objectives needed. And then turning point 2, I effectively just massacred the kill team. Like at the end of 2, literally there was only about, I think, 2 operatives left, because what happened was his Weber moved up and then failed to kill someone. So then I killed the Weber. My drone at the end of 1, had dashed onto 1 and shot the operative that was hiding where you can see with the conceal token, and just like all hits and just blazed away. So I just managed to point and click stuff away. My Transpectral, specialist, effectively near 5 under that building, there was a melee Acolyte hybrid who was going to charge in, but I gave him -1 APL, so all he could do was charge. So that was nullified for the turn, and then like I fell back the guy he charged and just shot him apart. And then it was like turning point 3, he was like wanted to concede, but he was like, I'll charge. But then he won priority, and I finally used a worthy cause because he was going to charge my leader. So my leader moved back and shot the guy who was going to charge him. But because I didn't kill the guy, he charged me, but because I was too deep into my own deployment, he didn't score the tac op he was trying to score. So unfortunately, the game ended 18-2 to me, because my tac ops were, I can't remember really. Kill more while engaged, so faction tac op 3. Then it was Plant Signal Beacon, which I love, and Vantage. So I managed to max out. And it was pretty unfortunate for my opponent, just because he was kind of a compendium team and he didn't realize that Markalites could just get rid of conceal. So he was playing like correctly with positioning, made a few minor errors here and there, which he told me. And it was just, once I managed to like surviving that lucky grenade shot and just getting kind of too greedy with kills that I thought weren't going to go off, just kind of sealed the game for me. And it kind of felt rough for the compendium. I was interested to, like, I was going to go, Wormblade, I was not sure how to actually deal with, or Rimblade. But it was a good opponent. Obviously got a bit frustrated, but that's understandable. Like, there's not much anyone can do at turning point 2 when you're effectively wiped out, and all I'd lost was, I think, 1 Fire Warrior. Like, I don't think I'd actually lost anyone. Oh no, the drone. I'd lost the drone because it suicided in. So, no, that was the weirdest thing. He had actually charged 2 of my drones, but for some reason my drones were so enraged while being charged that they just rolled crits when in combat. So he charged my drone. I was like, this is going to be easy. Like, one drone ended up killing a guy who charged, and another drone like maimed a guy before being torn down. So it was just like, okay, these drones they hit harder than my Fire Warriors. But that was basically game 1. Now, before I move on to game 2, I would like to highlight a very special part of this. Well, it's like, you don't really talk about tournaments in this regard unless you're an avid viewer of The Honest Wargamer. But I feel it's so important to talk about the toilets. Not that they were bad. I'll show the picture now. Toilets are really good. Like, they remind me of when I was in Tabletop Scotland. Like, as you can see in the picture, the mirror's a bit off. But they had deodorant. They had like air fresheners, moisturizer. The only thing they were missing were hand towels. Really good toilets. And I feel it's an overlooked area of like tournaments. I'm being serious. Like, when you've played as many tournaments as I have, you encounter certain people who are not aware of the odor they are emitting. And this kind of stuff is just like really good. So this is why I'm talking about. I'm being serious. Even Charles was like, that's actually pretty good. So I'll give it like a 9 out of 10. If it had hand towels, it'd be they were ran out of hand towels. So it's like, would be a 10 out of 10. But it's really, honestly, really good. It would be great if more events were like that. And then, let me go into game 2. So game 2, I was playing against Warp Coven. So this guy had actually played Charles and beat Charles. I was like, I need to get revenge. But I don't enjoy playing Warp Coven. Warp Coven have so many tricks. The problem is keeping track of everything. but I've played Warp Coven so much, I just know them now. Because it was funny, we were going over the rules and I just had to remind him, oh, Battlescribe messed up there, because he put in Battlescribe print off. He's like, oh, was that warp power should actually be blast black and not white, because it's the indirect one, so it has less blast. He's like, oh my gosh, it's easy stuff to miss, but I've played against them so much. But this was domination, so effectively, if you control 2 or more objectives, you get 1 victory point. If you control 3 or more, well, if you control more than your opponent, you get an additional 1. And for each of your opponent's objectives you control, you get 1 victory point. So this one is quite difficult to max out because you have to move up. It's an action point to claim an objective, but once you claim it, it is yours until your opponent does a claiming action on it. So you can claim and move away and move up. But once again, I was like, cool. The problem I have with this mission is it's 9-inch deep deployment, so we both had vantage points in our own deployment. So as you can see, I put my marker drone, my weapons expert snipe specialist, the one with the experimental rifle, and my blooded Pathfinder all up top, and they all just had conceal, spaced, blew apart. For like, I made sure when I play against Warp Coven, everyone's spaced out, and yeah, I was like, I'd spoken to Charles. He's like, oh yeah, he's really good at hiding stuff, and I was like, okay. So we rolled off. I was the attacker. He actually won priority. He actually beat me in the scouting phase, which is a rare thing. And, he made me go first because he picked Fortify. I picked Change Order, so Infiltrate. And yeah, so because he had 8 operatives, I effectively had to wait for my 9th them to move stuff. And because he actually kept stuff very invisible, because he had 4 Zangors, a Soul Reaper cannon, and 3 Sorcerers. So I only found out midway because I was telling him what my kill team does, and I was like, Markalites, and he's said he was aware of them, but he actually wasn't aware of what they actually do when you have 5 Markalites. So he's playing really cagey. He moved Zangors onto 2 and 5. Then he popped his Sorcerer up and fired his indirect blast at my not my drone controller, my blooded Pathfinder, and just fluffed. So. And it was like, oh, I'll use the stratagem just to, after he's activated, just to change it back to conceal because I can't dash off because he had fly. So he moved up on, and I was like, excellent. Like the trap is sprung. So then what I did with because he had the tack up way, he had to claim objective 1 and for 1 victory point, and then also kill operative I nominate. So I nominated my Transpectral analysis guy. So then I moved him out, so he was still obscured, and then I just dunked -1 action point onto his flying sorcerer, and he was like, okay. And then he was getting ready to move up, so he moved hit some more Zangors around, and I was like, cool. Because I was like, that's just the backup. I'm actually kind of wasting to get his Soul Reaper cannon done, because once his Soul Reaper guy is activated, then I have freedom to do whatever I want. So what I did was I dumped 2 Markalites on the leader, then I dumped a 3rd, and then I activated my blooded Pathfinder, who dumped 5. So then she shot and effectively brought that sorcerer down to 1 wound. Then, what do you call it? Then I activated my... No, sorry. Because she couldn't... Because the sorcerer was on 3... because the sorcerer was on 2. She put 2 more to put the sorcerer onto 4 because the Soul Reaper cannon moved up, shot at my gun drone, who I drone controlled to claim objective 1 and killed the gun drone, obviously. Did the gun drone die? The gun drone lived. It lived on 2 wounds. That brave gun drone. So once the Soul Reaper guy activated, because he was engaged, I was like, okay, 2 Markalites on your leader, and I'll shoot your Soul Reaper. No buffs, just hitting on freeze. And I just did lots of crits and effectively knocked down that Soul Reaper guy from 12 wounds to 4. And then I was like, okay, no one else can shoot. So I switched my Pathfinder, the weapon expert, to engage, and shot the leader. So he's like, oh, how can you do that? You can see all. I was like, oh. And then I explained what 5 Markalite does because he had the +1 Markalite equipment. And he's like, oh. So then I rolled 2 crits. So immediately did 4 mortal wounds to him. And because it was 4-4, he took the armor saves but failed them both and effectively took 12 damage. No, 4 times 3 is... No, 4 times 4 is 16. Yeah, so he saved one. He took 12 damage, but then the mortal wounds had already killed him. So then that sorcerer died. And then I just ran up my iron rifle guy just up top, overcharged into the Soul Reaper cannon, and just rolled 2 crits and a hit and a 1, which I rerolled because I had also popped the body system again. So bonded, and rerolled that into a crit and obliterated the Soul Reaper cannon. So end of turning point 1, I had 3 points because I controlled the middle. He'd also teleported a Zangor below 1 behind that barricade, but once again, like literally, I just shot him with a normal dude. I think it was, yeah, my Grenadier. No, not my Grenadier. It was one of my engaged guys that just shot and just killed the Zangor. No, sorry, it was the recon drone, because the recon drone had just moved up, dashed up, and then fired into that Zangor and just killed him. I didn't expect that to happen. So yeah, I'd killed one Zangor, I'd killed a sorcerer, which was the important indirect one, and I'd also killed the Soul Reaper cannon. So he had lost a huge chunk of his kill team. I'd killed the 2 key pieces I want, along with an additional Zangor. So that was great for me. Then turning point 2, he had moved another sorcerer, basically behind one of the buildings. Unfortunately, I won priority. Fusion Grenade him down to 1 wound, because I did like 2 crits and a hit. And like, no, 2 crits and 2 hits. So he failed, he managed to save one of the hits with his invons, but was left with 1 wound. So he flew over, the one I killed, turning point 1, wasn't the one who could fly. He just used his move and dash to get up onto the building and shoot. But yeah, the flying sorcerer, I managed to get down to 1 wound. Then he activated to flip 1, then flew back. But what I did was then I killed the Zangors that were coming close. His other sorcerer just hid, because he was like, there's no point poking out that source. Like, he moved, made a shot with Warp Blast, failed, dashed back into cover, so he couldn't, like, behind the wall, so I couldn't see him. And I effectively killed all the Zangors, turning point 2. I used a drone, I used the marker drone to flip back objective 1 to me with the drone controller. And then, yeah, so I maxed out faction tack up 3, which was kill more while losing less wounds. And I had scored 1 for overrun. Then turning point 3, he finally won priority, but this is where I had moved up one of my operatives onto 1. So then I activated a worthy cause, ran around the corner and point blanked him, and just did enough damage to kill that 1 wound sorcerer. And then he passed, and effectively I just moved up, turning point 4. He popped up, tried to kill, because I just advanced all my kill team. Because what I did is I moved them down the flanks and started recon sweeping every turn, because I wasn't really using a worthy cause much. And yeah, he popped out, failed to kill. He left my Transpectral Pathfinder on like 2 wounds and dashed back. And then I managed to score overrun, and I did plant signal beacon. So I only got 10 points from the primary, but I maxed out my tac ops. So it ended, I think, 16-3. Yeah. And yeah, that was that game. So it was tough for my opponent, because he was like, he thought he knew how Marker Lights worked, but didn't. And at the end of the game, he was like, oh, I didn't really agree with the hate Pathfinders getting, I think if people were making a big mistake out of nothing, but now I've actually played against it, I can see why it's so strong. And I was like, yeah, because I could just I was doing crazy Marker Lights, because I could just I can see your staff, because your staff is so tall. I can see your robe. Unfortunately, that counts as part of the model. And even when you're hiding behind heavy, the only way safe for him was just to hide back altogether. But his deployment and activations during turning point 1 were completely solid. He made no mistakes. The only mistake was technically coming out to shoot, which is just bizarre because he had to, otherwise he would have lost. So it was really rough for him. It's kind of why I kind of like going into Warp Coven as Pathfinders, because you can effectively, they kind of have to poke out, and the moment someone does poke out, if they're a sorcerer, you just obliterate them. So yeah, once again, everything went according to my plan, and yeah, I was now 2 wins ahead. And yeah, this was a 3-round tournament, so we had 1 round left. So yeah, for round 3, this was the final. I was against Novitiates, who were also the only undefeated player. Yeah, I was against a guy called Matt, who's also from the Glass Half Dead Discord. So yeah, it was Master of the Terminals. I hate Master of the Terminals. You know how many times I've played Master of the Terminals? I hate this mission. It's the worst mission in Kill Team. But if you're not aware, Master of the Terminals is starting with, you have 4 objectives, and starting with the attacker after terming attacker and defender, the attacker chooses which objective you can't score turning point 1, then your opponent picks for turning point 2 and alternates, and the number of the objective represents the turning point it turns off. To activate it is an action point, and you get a VP for doing it, and you can only do it once per turning point. So the problem you have with this mission is it's very biased towards the attacker, and when you're playing symmetrical deployment, it's super tight. Like, it's so advantageous to the attacker. So rolling off, both rolled crits. I was like, yeah, rolled off. I rolled a 3, he rolled a 5, and I was like, no. So, you know, everything his was bunched up behind that. Mine was more spread out. So I had put my, my transpectral interference guy in the bottom next to the marker drone. But I had left him, actually, you can't see it there, but he's actually within blue because I dash up to put the medic within range. Because I was like, okay, I'm going to bait you out to shoot the marksman, because that's what I want you to do. Because I entirely expected his crossbow lady to shoot and duck away. So what I did is, because you can see I couldn't deploy up to the wall, but I actually won priority because I picked infiltrate for scouting while he picked recon. So he reconned up to the wall while I picked infiltrate. But then I also reconned with my free recon, the medic up, and then I played recon sweep. So everything on the right-hand side effectively moved 3 inches up. So I could move my marksman specialist and my blooded Pathfinder up to the wall. And so I got some sneaky free deployment. And I deployed the drone in the middle. So after I won, I activated the drone. I went first, obviously. So I activated the drone controller, who moved up, activated the, the gun drone, who then moved and claimed 4. And I was like, yep, that's mine. So I claimed 4. And he was like, oh. So then he shot the crossbow lady into my marksman specialist, rolled 4 hits, then used his once per game item for her to do a faith action for free. So changed that to a crit. And then, yeah, so did some crits and then immediately killed him. But I was like, medic. So he was left on 1 wound. And then he dashed off, not away from, like behind, but to the side. So he was behind heavy cover, but his crossbow and cape was sticking out. Well, her crossbow and cape was sticking out. So I could still see her, which was the important thing. So what I did then was effectively move around. I gave my blooded Pathfinder an extra action point because I was waiting for because he was popping unlimited range just on his leader's plasma pistol every turn. So he didn't actually have the movement to move around and claim free. So what I was able to do is I used 2 of my operatives who had enhanced marker lights to put 4 marker light tokens onto the crossbow lady. Then before I did my last activation, I moved my, my sniper specialist down, I kept him as concealed, and effectively, because she had 5 mark lights, shot at her, and I rolled 2 crits and then just all hits. So she was AP, so I had a 2 4-up saves, failed them both. He'd burnt his fate points like moving around, so couldn't save her because of the mortal wounds. So she just died. So I was like, cool, cleared her out. And then for my last activation, I ran the, the blooded Pathfinder off of the building and claimed free. So instead of actually going like 2-1 behind, I was actually 2-1 ahead. Then for turning point 2, my drone, I won priority again. So my drone activated first. Well, I activated my drone controller, activated the drone, immediately claimed 4, and then moved, because he had basically moved his one of his flamers behind the building where 4 is, body blocked him and shot. So he was able to save it because of faith points, but I injured him. So he no longer had the movement to move, dash, and flame everyone who was concentrated down in the bottom. Then I claimed free. He was actually contesting the middle because he chose behind enemy lines. Well, it's the one where, not behind enemy lines, it's like hold the line and central control. So I was kind of just like, I need to score more primary in this mission just to 9 him points. Turning point 2, I managed to score 3 primary. He scored 0. But he was getting tac ops, so he did get 1 for hold the line that turn, and he just got central control because what swung it was I charged my Grenadier forward, but then I also did the recon drone next to him to partly contest the center, but for savior protocols. So he threw a crack grenade at he declared the Grenadier as a target of a crack grenade, but I used savior protocols on the drone. The drone was actually going to die because I failed 1 save, and then I clutch command pointed it to keep it alive. So that was very useful. Turning point 3 got very tight because he managed to get 2 on the primary while I got 1, and he managed to get more attack ops than I did. And then we barely got into turning point 4. And as we were playing, effectively, I was killing 1 of his operatives a turn, sometimes 2, but he was killing 2 or 3 because what I had to do was suicide stuff onto the points. So what I did at the end of turning point 3, I kept doing -1 APL on his chainsword lady because she was running up the middle and then tried to charge up and she moved up and contested because I took away an APL from her. So I won priority in turning point 4 to move my marksman specialist around to give her -1 APL. And he thought he could contest the point, but because of the way the mission is, the deployments were done, we were both hiding operatives behind the building because all game he had this chalice lady behind objective 2 and was just using her to claim and do his chalice action for 3 faith points. So she charged around the middle just to body block. I moved back, gave my Grenadier +1 APL, who moved back and then grenaded her. And then, I managed to claim objective 1, objective 3. And he focused on central control because I couldn't stop holding the line. So I gave him... I did the Grenadier thing another turn. So I just killed her by moving away. But for turning point 4, the last thing I did was I had to make sure he had activated his leader because I needed his leader to run to the center point to stop contesting. Well, to stop shooting because my marker drone was concealed on top of the building next to objective 3. So my plan was he's going to score me plant signal beacon because we were tied on victory points. Well, we were tied because of our current score, effectively. So he moved his leader up to score central control, and I was like, perfect, cool. I activate my comms guy, gives the drone +1 APL. I activate my, I activate my drone controller to move and drone control the marker drone, who's going to now fly, and then now it's got 2 APL left. I did a plant signal beacon because I was within red of his drop zone, just because I'd moved up really close. And that was the last mission of the game, and I won by 2 victory points because I was just plant signal beacon was my only gambit, because I was like, I only score 1 point from faction tac op 3. Probably should have gone with faction tac op 2, but I didn't put that in my deck when I was randomly selecting stuff. And he's got 2 from central control and 2 from hold the line, but not much from the primary, whereas I'd almost maxed out on the primary to an extent. And yeah, basically plant signal beacon won me the game. Super tough. Like, the only way I was actually killing the novitiates was when I rolled more successes than them, because of how his faith points worked. He was like, it's 2 to change a failed success into a normal success, and it's 2 to change a defense to a crit. So the only way I was actually killing his novitiates was when I was just rolling 4 successes. So I actually didn't kill much. We were actually, I think we both ended on like 6 operatives left at the end, or 7. No, 6 left. Yeah, it was super tight. Because as I said, I actually abandoned killing and just focused on swarming the points and just baiting him away and trying to desperately keep my marker drone alive. But yeah, it was super tough, super fun, really good player, and yeah, really tight. Yeah, it's like novitiates, at least in my experience, are quite tough for the Pathfinders. But yeah, it was a fun game. So yeah, overall, out of all the 8 players, I'll run through them, but let me get the scores up now. But yeah, Gene Stealer Cults came 8th, Tyranid High Fleets came 7th, Charles unfortunately came 6th with Forge World. He actually had a lot of tight games, which I'll cover in the podcast. But he was like, he made a few mistakes just because he hadn't played in a while. Then Harlequins came 5th, Death Guard came 4th. So I think they lost game 1, but then pulled it through for the rest of the tournament. Warp Coven came 3rd, Novitius obviously came 2nd, and I came 1st. But not only did I come 1st, I actually won Best Painted. So yeah, that was a big surprise, which I'm honestly happy about winning the Best Painted, because I actually haven't done a 1st place and a Best Painted since my Shadespire days for Warhammer Underworlds. So I was really happy about that. But yeah, it was a really fun event, really well run. My only criticisms were just symmetrical deployments, but I prefer asymmetrical. But, you know, super clear. But yeah, super clear missions, great layouts. No real downside. You know, they were even using BCP. If they just told us BCP was in advance, I could have tracked it a bit more. But yeah, you know, if you're in the High Wycombe area, Tabletop Republic's really good. They said they're going to do at least 2 to 3 more for this year. And yeah, I'll definitely come down for the others. But yeah, it was a great tournament, good players. Yeah, nothing to really complain about. You know, they even had a nice selection of drinks and snacks. But it was a really cool place. They run Digimon too, so I'll probably try and play there for some Digimon events and stuff. But no, yeah, it was really solid. And yeah, overall, I'm really happy with how the Pathfinders did. You know, people are like, when I posted online, they were like, oh, you know, you must have been abusing a worthy cause. I was only really using a worthy cause in game 3, but I only used it once, and I used it once in mission 2, round 2. What was really winning me games were just Markalites, because, you know, there's no way to safely hide from someone who's actively trying to Markalite you unless you literally hide out of line of sight, which is not really playing a part of the mission. And I was chatting to a lot of my opponents, and one of them raised to me like, oh, you know, it'd be interesting if they worked like in 40k where it was just, you know, they triggered on a free up. And I thought, yeah, you know, that would actually be a good change to Markalites instead of like, oh, you know, obscuring and all of that. If they only triggered on a free up, I think you would kind of fix Pathfinders. Obviously, a worthy cause needs to be addressed regardless. But if you made Markalites work on a free up instead of automatically working, I think you would drastically drop the power of the kill team, because, you know, a worthy cause was just an icing on the cake for me. It was just Markalite and stuff I needed to kill. And if my Markalites only trigger on a free up, they go from being the core of my game plan to just being, if they work, they work. You know, I may just run EMP grenades instead and stuff, but it makes it much harder to get to 5 Markalites. Sure, it's more luck based, but when you're playing competitively, you kind of want to eliminate that random element, and it would effectively, you would only be able to get 5 Markalites on 1 operative per turning point if they only worked on a free up. So I think that would be a nice fix. Hopefully, you know, that does get fixed, because Games Workshop really need to address the timing with a worthy cause and the drone controller chaining operatives. But yeah, it's just weird, like just pointing and clicking stuff to death, and like all your weapon experts don't have heavy, so they just run up and go, I'm going to overcharge, I might die, but so yeah, you know. But as I said, now I've won with Commandos and Pathfinders. I'll move on to another kill team. I'm trying to get my Novitiates painted, but also my Wormblade. So, because the way I kind of play is like Warhammer Underworld. So once I've won with a team, I'll move on to the next. So I would only bring out like kill teams I've won with for like special events or something, you know, like team formats or whatever. But yeah, so I'll move on to a different kill team now. Hopefully Rimblade, sorry. But I would really like to get my Novitiates done, because I bought some more miniatures to fill out my roster. Because, oh man, like Faith Dice is so strong, and I feel I can do some crazy stuff with them. But I need to get it painted. So I am on a massive backlog with painting, because I still need to get my Aeronautica planes painted for a Warhammer World event. So, you know, I've got a lot of stuff to paint, but that's my own fault. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tournament report. Please remember to like and subscribe, as well as comment what you thought. Love to hear your feedback, as well as what you thought of Pathfinders. But But yeah, that was really fun. I'm definitely trying to make more Kill Team events and trying to get more Kill Team games in general. It's just my schedule sucks. It's just so bad. But yeah, it's fun playing Kill Team again. Really got my competitive drive back again. Yeah, it's just fun. Love Kill Team so much. It's so good. Hopefully, we'll get the new Kill Team box announced this coming Thursday with LVO. But yeah, it should be cool. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. So until next time, remember, no matter how hard you hide, Markalites will always find you, just like my crits.